Algebra 1, Module 4, Lesson 2, Multiplying and Factoring Polynomial Expressions. Number 1, factor completely. 2a squared plus 6a plus 18. What do you see first? What's the first thing we're going to do? We got a greatest common factor of what? 2. Yes, 2 will go into all three terms. You have to look at every term to see, will it go into all three? And it will. So we're going to bring 2 out here. And we're putting it in factored form. Okay? It was in standard form. Now it's going to be in factored form. So whenever we do this, we factor out a 2. So that just means we're going to divide everything by 2. What is 2a squared divided by 2? A squared plus 3a plus 9. Can you check that? Yeah, do distributive property and you should get exactly what you started with. Multiply 2 by each of those terms and you should get exactly what the problem asked. All right. And that is, yes, that is as far as that will factor. Now, number 2 says factor completely. What is our common factor? You're on the wrong number 2. 5, okay, that is the greatest common factor. 5x squared divided by 5 is x squared. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Are we finished? No. This will factor more. You need to, look, guys, I'm going to show you shortcuts here. You need to know these. Algebra 2 starts off knowing these factors. Okay? What you're looking at there is called, forget about the 5, but the x squared minus 1. That is called the difference, because it's subtraction, right? The difference of 2 squares. How do you get x squared? X times x, right? How do you get 1? 1 times 1. That's the reason why it is the difference of 2 squares. When you think of difference of 2 squares, when you see that, your mind needs to go to conjugates. What is conjugates? Good question. You're going to say, you're going to keep your 5. You're going to make 2 sets of parentheses. You're going to make 1 a plus and 1 a minus. Conjugates. Okay? Difference of 2 squares, conjugates. And guess what you're going to do? You're just simply going to write down the terms. Conjugates. Difference of 2 squares, because you're subtracting, you're taking the difference of 2 squares. X squared, 1 squared. Okay? So you're just going to put x, 1, 1. And there you go. There's your answer. Now, I'll show you a little bit of why that's the case. Okay? Here you would say that we'll get into these later on, guys. This is not necessarily what you're going to be talking about in this, but right here. Your solutions to this would be x plus 1 equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0. Well, we would solve that by saying x is equal to 1 and x is equal to negative 1, right? Just move it to the other side, and that's your answer. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. That's a solution. That's an x. That's a root. Well, there's all kinds of different things that we're going to be calling these, okay? So now then, how do we get that though? How do we know that from the difference of two squares? Well, watch this. If we had left it at x squared minus 1, and we set that equal to 0, what's the answer? X squared equals 1. Well, what do you got to do still? You square root it, right? X equals, what's the square root of 1? 1 and always, when you take the square root of something, always, there's two answers. There's a positive and a negative. Negative 1 times negative 1 is? 1 times 1 is? So that's the reason why we would get plus or minus 1, just like we just answered it. We said that the answer was going to be 1 and negative 1, right? So that's the why. Anyway, you shouldn't really need to know all that type of stuff right now, I don't think. Just know when you see the difference of two squares, you've got conjugates. It will factor more. Okay? Now, number 3. What do we got? Yes, 3t. T for all of them. There's a t in every one of them. Now, if we factored out 3t, what's this one going to be? T squared plus t minus 16? Okay. Now, you got to do something else here. Because, yes, this will factor even more. This is when we get into trial and error. You put 2 parentheses. First term is going to be t. Second term is going to be t. And what? You're going to have a positive and a negative answer here. Okay? And you know, since your middle term is positive, your biggest number is going to be positive. Since the middle term is a positive, your biggest number is going to be positive. Now, how do you find these two numbers? No. It's what? Two numbers? The last number, 16. What two numbers can we multiply together that we can also combine to get the 6? So what can we multiply together to get negative 16 that we can combine to get a positive 6? We're going to have two numbers. What two numbers are we going to multiply together to get 16 that we combine to get 6? It's a negative 16. 8 and 8 times what is 16? 2. So if I put 8, because it's my biggest number, and 2 in the last, what's negative 2 times 8? Negative 16. What is negative 2 plus 8? Positive 6. That's how you get that, using trial and error. Okay? Everybody see that? What two numbers do you multiply together to get the last term that you can also combine and get the middle term? Well, that's how you're going to do trial and error. Okay? Cat. Because I know you can't do that. What are you going to multiply together to get 9 that you can also combine to get 3? can't. You'll start seeing these things. You're going to, what two numbers can you multiply together to get the last term that you can also combine together to get the middle term? Just think about what you just did. You unfold it. Right? If I would have gave you t plus 8 and t minus 2, you would have worked it out and got t squared plus 6t minus 16. You're unfolding it, basically. Right? Yeah, considering this is lesson 2 of your module, don't you think you're going to see a lot of this? Okay, number 4, factor completely. What is our common term? N. And then 4 n squared. Now, y'all need to be, you should, as soon as you write that or you see me write that, I need you to go, difference of 2 squares. I don't care. Is 4 a square? Is it a perfect square? Is n squared a perfect square? Okay, if those two numbers are perfect squares, then you have the difference of perfect squares, or the difference of squares. What are they? That's conjugates. And it doesn't matter whether it's plus or minus. And guess what? It's super simple because it tells you what it is. What's the perfect square? We got 4, so what is the square root of that? 2. N squared is going to be n. Bring down our n. And there's your answer. Okay? Now, here's the thing. For this problem, I knew, look, this is getting on into things because I want y'all to kind of see, kind of track to where we're going with this. I know that since this polynomial, it's actually a binomial, right? There's only 2 terms here. It's the highest degree is 3. It's cubed, right? Everybody see that? It's cubed. That's called the highest degree. That's the highest term, right? I know there's 3 answers. Okay? What are my 3 answers here? N is equal to 0. 2 minus n is equal to 0, and 2 plus n is equal to 0. You always set each factor equal to 0. That's what you're going to do. Okay? So this would be 2 equals n, right? Add n to both sides, you get 2 equals n. And this one's going to be what? N equals -2. Open your eyes. Scroll down. Okay. Now, we're not there yet. You don't have to know what the answers are to those, but that's what you're getting to. I want y'all to start seeing this stuff, though, because you may not have a great Algebra 2 teacher when it comes time. Right, Jordan? All right.